Hello and welcome back to the Bear Cave. You're joining me at the start of a new life for this character, Purple, who, if you haven't seen him before, which is most likely all of you, um, he is a sort of a rescued bank character who did his first epic lives last time around the wheel, proudly sporting the two brace uh, lives that he got from his first time in Epic. I was hoping to use him to do a 1 to 30 Epic journey, as on my main character Fools I did a lot of racial past lives with the Acid Warlock, which this is. So I have plenty of gear to illustrate the nice things you could use for them, and I like to think I can at least talk in a semi-informed manner about the ways to build them and the um, the stronger aspects in the trees that you can use to be successful, and the good spells. Well, I suppose the anybody who's ever played a warlock will say there's only really one spell, but we'll get to that at level 10. Um, so yeah, I was hoping to use this as well to encourage some of you of maybe some of you were a bit like me when I started and stuck to the sort of melee and ranged stuff, shying away from the caster, seeing all the different spells on people's bars and thinking, oh god, I'd never manage that. Well, the good news with the Warlock is you only get 2 spells per level, so it's a very limited selection. You end up just trying to, to prioritize what you might need the most. And the other good news is, another thing that puts people off the casters is the spell point management aspect. Fear of running out of spell points mid-quest and not being near a shrine and basically having to give up because of that. The good news with the Warlock is there's an awful lot, especially during the heroic leveling. I suppose, in the epic as well, because the epic stuff will be spell-like abilities, won't it? In the epic trees, mostly. So there's an awful lot of stuff that is spell-like ability and/or free cost. The eldritch blast abilities that the warlock has are completely free, or as one forum user put it, hold down the left mouse button and YOLO blast your way to victory. And it's literally that simple. Just hold it down for as long as you want. You're not charged anything for it. And later on, your single target blast can become a variety of different options depending on which trees you decide to build. We'll look at those and discuss the situations in which they can all be useful. So yeah, I think, and this was the case with me as well, I think the Warlock can be a nice introduction to a caster class, just to sort of ease yourself into it gently, get used to the idea of using spells and the meta magics, maximize, empower, quicken, heighten, all this kind of stuff, what they do, how they work. So I was hoping to use this little series to explain some of those to some of you who might be new or might be considering playing a caster, and also to explain the desirable gear to help your caster be successful, depending on what kind of caster you're trying to build. Um, a couple of little things before I start. One of the pitfalls I fell into when building my first warlock, I was thinking, why is the damage so low? What's going on here? And you need to go into your, is it in the feats section? Yes, under warlock class feats, you have two. You have a focused eldritch blast, which is on the bar there and switched on, and then the Pact, which in this case is the Great Old One, which is the acid one, and that needs to be dragged onto the bar as well and switched on. I should probably spend a moment to explain the Pact and how the Warlock damage works. In layman's terms, every time you shoot your Eldritch Blast, as it's called, holding the left mouse button down, you do two different types of damage to the opponent. The first part of it, by default, is force damage, and that can't be resisted. The second part is what's referred to as your Pact damage, and the enemy is allowed a save against that to take half damage. Depending on your Pact, and I'll list the Pact's choices possible, I'll link to the wiki page on that. Depending on the Pact, the save goes against either a fortitude, a reflex, or a will saving throw. And the Pact choice also governs various spells and spell-like abilities and bonuses that you get as you level up through your Warlock life, of which more later. If you were just happening by this and wondering what would be a decent Pact choice for a Warlock life, for the purposes of leveling, I would recommend either this one, the Acid, the Sonic one, or the Electric one. What's that called? I can't remember what that one's called. The reasons being that in all three cases, the Pact is a damage type that is resisted little or not at all by opponents. In the case of the Sonic, you get some nice... well, in fact, both Sonic and Electric come with some nice spells and abilities associated. The Electric comes with some nice buffs, and the Sonic one has a nice what is it, some kind of a hold. I think it's called Dark Delirium that you get at level 6, and that holds creatures in place with no save, which is very nice for when you're struggling with something and you just want it to stay there until you're ready to deal with it, like a Reaper perhaps. And at level 15 with the Sonic one, you get the Abundant Step ability, the Misty Escape it's called, which is insanely good. Were it not for the fact that I have all the gear and I've prepared all this with the acid thing in mind, I would probably have done a Sonic one myself. But the Sonic won't tie in with the epic future I have in mind for this build, so you'll have to wait and see on that. So yes, the Pact damage in two parts. At the moment we've got force and acid, so we are keen to gear for boosting those elements. I should probably give you a little look at said gear. You've no obligation to wear anything really at level 1. These are just for convenience and a bit of help. Most of this gear comes from the Borderlands in a past life, so these items mostly just worn because they have a mythic boost, which boosts, in this case, physical and magical resistance. In the case of the goggles, we've got universal spell power, just little things like that. The boots are quite handy for increasing run speed. You could also have chosen the Expeditious Retreat as a spell, but Warlocks are so limited with the spells. I have actually gone with False Life for the first level spell, because Warlock healing sucks, but they're kind of the kings of temporary hit points, and temporary hit points don't get subject to the Reaper nerf. So I'm hoping to use this in conjunction with this faint health enhancement in the Tainted Scholar Tree to give myself, can I show that I'm on 62 health now? If I cast this now, there you go, it's given me a 32 point buffer, so I can't heal myself per se, but I can give myself this buffer, which hopefully will be enough to keep me alive. I guess time will tell. I've never been much of a one for hirelings, so I'm hoping this will be a way to get round that in the early levels. I will obviously swap it out for something more useful, like maybe jump or the shield spell when once we've got better sources of false life than this, when we've leveled up a little bit. So in the weapon slot I've just got a piece of random loot I found in a prior life. Impulse is nice because that gives force spell power, and potency is giving a boost to everything, so that's helping our acid a little bit. Should I mention anything else? Yeah, on the gear side, he was lucky enough to find a blade of Jack Gibbers from the legendary Two-Toed Tobias quest. Literally the first time he'd been in there, and he pulled one of these Jack Gibbers, which if you've ever hunted for one of these, you will know how insanely lucky that was. I couldn't quite believe it. The first Pact spell that the Acid Warlock gets is actually quite useful. Entangle. So there's some nice crowd control there, which we will be attempting to use to our benefit in the quest to come. I plan to show one quest at each level, just to show what he's doing and where the build's at. God, we can't even jump. Otherwise on the bar, fairly standard stuff. We've got all the potions that you would expect: lesser restoration, blindness removal, disease removal, curse removal, anti-poison. That's my horse there. That is a nice little thing that comes from the Evening Star chains relating to the Harpers. Complete quests for them, and you can go into the tavern there and pick up one of these things. It's a really nice way of dispelling, like if you get held by a hold monster or hold person spell and immobilized, or most forms of crowd control, you can hit that and get out of it. It could save you plenty of deaths, so I highly recommend putting that on the bar if you've got one. I have a little shield clickable there, pair of gloves. Very nice for if you don't have the shield spell for any reason. And why would you want shield? Well, especially in Reaper mode, the magic missiles that enemies can cast really hurt, and this is a way to completely negate them. That has come from I think from a low B end quest chain reward, so well worth checking the end chain rewards for these. You can see on the item there's like a 3 there, these clickable items. Sometimes there can be some really useful stuff on there, like shield or like invisibility, stuff like that you could get plenty of mileage off, especially if it's a spell that your class could not natively cast. Could be very helpful. Otherwise, I've got that's a nice item too, Reveler's Regalia. Festive bonus to spell crit damage. That's come from the Night Revels special event. Just a word on Purple himself. He doesn't have many lives. A couple of cleric lives. One paladin. A purple dragon, as you can see there. That's the purple dragon boost thing for a bit more speed. And last time around, he obviously was a Warlock, so we've got one Warlock and two of these Primal Brace. No, not Primal, Divine Brace. That's it for his lives. Okay, I've waffled on for far too long, so I did actually manage to use my... I save all my experience diamonds up for each new life. I don't see any point in taking them, when your character is like middle of the heroic life already. It makes very little difference. But to go from 1 to 2 is very nice. So he could actually take level 2 now, but in the interests of completeness, we're going to do this at 1. And true to form, I forgot to even pick up the quest. Okay. I really, really hope we don't mess up now, because all that half hour of waffle will have been wasted.
Coming from deep in the crypt, you hear the strange and unsettling echoes that Kaya spoke of. And by the
As I say, I'm no fan of hirelings, so we're going to try and manage without. Get the boots boost on, the shield clickable. We're going to go with our spell crit boost as well. We still have some faint health, so I don't need to cast the false health just yet. That's the entanglement, trying to slow things down. Now, can you see the two different types of damage there, the force and the acid? That's the standard blast and the pact damage going in.
What were those cultists up to?
Massive damage, yeah, I know.
Chest glimmers in the dark passage here.
People often, to avoid such feeble damage, they'll swing a weapon instead at such early stages. But I don't like that. If you're a caster class, I like to try to stick with the magic side of things. So you see I'm just holding the left mouse button down here. And because I took so long killing the guy in front of the altar, he spawned another undead from the altar.
You continue to hear cultists about their evil work from further inside the crypt.
You have very little armor class as a beginner. Well, as a beginner, anything, I guess. So try not to be hit. If I do get hit, I'm going to hit the false health.
Treasure chest. Perhaps the cultists brought it here, but it's yours. There's another Sahuagin. It croaks.
Crag wolf Heyton. In life you served the light, but in death you shall serve the devourer.
God, we've got another one coming. So here you're seeing the problem when you're starting out as a warlock, and as plenty of other casters too. We have only single target damage. The druid has the same problem. So our priority, as quickly as possible, is to get a different blast type, which is going to get us multiple target damage, which is really going to help us. In the tree, I was already invested in the Tainted Scholar. A bit further up that tree, there is the chain-shaped blast, which can hit up to 3 targets at once. And that is what I'm really wanting to go for. You just saw I took no damage from an attack there. I should probably show my one nice piece of gear I'm wearing. This is a Kenneth crafted piece. Invulnerability gives you 5 damage reduction, except against magic weapons. Now most creatures from a very early level do use magic weapons, so that's limited in use, but nice to start with. The fearsome is very nice, because things that do hit you, as I think that thing did, run away in fear if they fail a save, I think. Or maybe they don't even get a save, I don't know. I think they get a save. And then we've got a Sapphire of Light fortification in there as well, just to round it out. So that's a nice starter item. The only problem with it, as it's level 1, it does get worn out quite quickly, and I need to pay attention, otherwise it gets broken.
In the middle of this chamber is an evil devourer altar.
I don't think I mentioned the... I didn't want to have you sit through the whole reincarnation thing and all that. I didn't mention the stats or the feat. So I'll do that now.
When the altar collapses, a third crest appears. It glows with cold magic.
We took Quicken to start with, because Maximise and Empower, they would be good on spell-like abilities, but we don't really get any spell-like abilities we're going to use, at least not the way I'm doing it, until later on. So that's why I've taken Quicken first. I haven't got it switched on at the moment because we've only got a handful of spell points, and quickening the entanglement would drain that quite fast. So max con for this build, because I plan to take it into the tankier tree, the what's it called? I did an experiment last life which worked out very nicely. The Enlightened Spirit is going to be the tankier side, which unlike the other two trees which go on charisma, this one goes on constitution. Some of the key abilities in here scale off constitution, and I'm hoping to show you that as we go through. It was an experiment last life. I'd played loads of Soul Eater Tainted Scholar Warlocks, like cookie cutter blaster builds, but never tried the tanky thing. So I tried the tanky thing last time around with him, and it worked really nicely. So I plan to try and show that as we go through the levels. It's a good idea to start off. Definitely a good idea to start off in these two trees as a blaster warlock. The common consensus is not to change into the spirit until at least level 12, when you get the spirit blast, the second big boom. What did I do? I think I went quite a bit further than 12 as a blaster. We'll see how we go, but I'm definitely not changing before 12. So we put our crests in here.
You fit the last crest in place, and the magic shield dissipates. The Sahuagin inside spits out.
Try not to die horribly in here.
These fools would keep Korthos.
So you can see already how much we'd benefit from having a blast that would target 3 things here.
The Sahuagin says,
And you, dead hero of Heyton blood, shall be the devourer's teeth.
Oh, you see the big necro guys run off in fear, so he must have hit us at some stage.
your bold actions
Good
saved
stuff.
Korthos
Okay.
and brought the Sahuagin's fell scheme to naught. The treasure chest in the antechamber
I think
is
I
now
interrupted
yours.
myself, didn't I? Max con, some points in intelligence for some skills, charisma, because that's the warlock's casting stat, although it's of lesser importance with this build, you still want some. And I put a bit in dex because I just had some left over, so I thought dex for some reflex saves. So I started with con 18, charisma 16, intelligence 12, dex 14. I chose shifter for this little project because it seems to marry up the best with what I'm trying to do. The just boosting constitution as far as I can go. If you were wanting to build this type of tanky warlock and didn't have the shifter, you could consider going in the dwarf tree because that has plenty of constitution as well. So the shifter, we've got constitution in the cause, we've got extra constitution while raging, we have extra healing amp for the beast hide, which I am, and at the top there we've got a quality bonus to hit points as well as extra PRR and threat generation, all of which are nice for a tanky warlock type, which this Enlightened Spirit is. I think that's probably enough waffle for a first episode, so I'm going to leave it there, and we will rejoin Purple at level 2 for more fun and games. Thank you very much for looking, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.